Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first story is titled, Am I the A-hole for never making my grandson a baby quilt like I did for the other children in my family? I, 56 female, was told about this place by my niece, so I'm telling my story here to get some opinions from people who aren't so close to the situation. I like to crochet. I like it a lot, and do it on the side as a hobby and make a lot of stuff for my family and friends and pay for everything myself. When my nephew told the family that he was going to be a dad, we were surprised and delighted. I asked him if he and his girlfriend picked out a name, and they said it would be Ian if it was a boy and Sophie if it was a girl. Fake names. I secretly decided to make 2 blankets with each name on it and gifted it to nephew and his family when I was finally allowed to see their son. They were delighted, and it turned out that a neighbor of mine also had a baby and decided to use the name Sophie for their daughter, so I just gave them the blanket. When my daughter announced that she was going to be a mom, I was excited, and she loved the idea of me making her child a blanket too. My daughter waited until she knew the gender before telling me the name, and I started making the blanket. After that, a lot of the people in my family would come to me and ask if I would make them a blanket because of how well I made them. They offered to pay me, but I refused, and told them that this would be my gift to the baby, and that all I ask is that they tell me what name they wanted months in advance so I could have plenty of time to make it, as I still worked a full-time job and did this on my free time. Last year, my son's fiancée announced her pregnancy, and I was happy for them. I repeatedly asked for a name so I could start making the blanket, since my son and his fiancée told me they wanted one, and my son's fiancée snapped at me and said that I'd get the name when I got it. After speaking to my son, he and his fiancée decided to keep the name a secret until the baby was born so no one could steal it. I asked them how I was going to gift the baby a blanket with their name on it if I didn't know what it was, and they said I could just do a rush job later. Well, the baby was born and the name was announced on social media. I was happy and went to visit, but my son's fiancée was upset with me for not bringing the blanket when I first met my grandson as per tradition. He was born on a Tuesday and I met him on a Friday, and I worked every day that week. Apparently, my son's fiancée was hurt that I didn't care enough to take off work to rush the blanket. I told them that I'd make a blanket soon, but then when I tried, my hands started to get in massive pain. I went to see the doctor, and given my age in the cold weather, I may be developing arthritis, and was advised to not do a list of activities until further notice. When I told my son and his fiancée, and they were again upset with me, I just decided to buy a blanket, and apparently I'm a petty and passive-aggressive mother-in-law who's punishing them for not being told the name when I first asked. Am I the a-hole? Comment said, not the a-hole. People who feel entitled to gifts are a-holes. You made the same offer you made to others. They decided that their agenda of keeping the name secret was more important. Lots of people who like to duck around aren't so keen on the finding out part of that game. And now you have a potential disability that may prevent you from delivering a traditional gift. That's no one's fault, and if they make a stink about it, they're even bigger a-holes than they already are acting like. Another comment said, not the a-hole. They decided keeping the name secret was more important than the traditional gift. Life happens, and now that traditional gift is no longer available. They should have told you about the name in private and asked to keep it secret, or accept getting the blanket late, if at all. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for threatening to call the cops on my mom for kidnapping? Hi, I am a 23 female, and I have a son named Declan. About 2 months ago, Declan went to stay at his grandparents' house around 11 a.m. on a Saturday. About a week prior to this, my stepdad and I had a conversation about Declan being home by 12 on Sundays, since that is his dad's, my fiancé, only day off. He's a blue-collar man. The Saturday I dropped Declan off, I knew they were going somewhere that day. I was told the store and maybe lunch. On Sunday morning, I messaged my mom asking what time they will be dropping Declan back off at our house. No response. Tried reaching out to my stepdad. No response. Mind you, this was around 9 a.m. I tried to call again 2 hours later, still no response. So I started to get a little worried. Finally, around 12, my mom texted me back saying they were at the beach. I'm sorry, what? After that, I proceed to tell her how I would like to know where they are going, especially since my son was only 16 months old at the time, not to mention I had already discussed a drop-off time with them. But my mother is not one to really reason with. It's her way or the highway. I tried to set boundaries, and I got called names, and was told to go to hell. So after that, I told my mom a couple of my friends were near them and was going to get Declan for me. She refused. She wanted to drop him off so we could talk, i.e. her screaming at me in my driveway, so I declined. Then threatened to not give me my son entirely unless I talked to her. I told her if she didn't give Declan to my friends, then I would call the cops and report her for kidnapping. She called everyone in my family and told them I threatened her because I was jealous she took my son to the beach. All I tried to do was set a boundary with my mother about my son, and now our relationship is damaged. My mother says since she's the grandmother, she should be able to spoil her grandchild without having to ask me first. I say it's fine to spoil him as long as it's within the boundaries I set. Anyways, am I the a-hole? Comment said, not the a-hole. OP, you threatened to call the cops on your mom for kidnapping because it was kidnapping. You didn't know where your son was, and your parents didn't tell you ahead of time that they were going to the beach. Then you try to lay boundaries down with your mom, and she's calling you every name under the sun for it? OP, if you want my advice, don't drop your son off at your parents' place anymore. If your mom has tried this once, she'll do it again. Another comment said, not the a-hole. Don't try to fix your relationship with her, she's abusive and intolerable. Just cut her off for your own sake and the safety of your child. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my adult sister that our family isn't cursed because our parents got divorced? Am I the a-hole for telling my 37 female sister, Jan, 41, to get over our parents' divorce? Our parents have been divorced for over 20 years. Growing up, it was evident from a young age that their marriage was messed up. Dad cheated a lot and never tried to hide it. When I was 6 and Jan was 9, Dad got Mom a dozen roses. Using context clues from things I remember at that time and confirmation from family, he was trying to apologize for an affair that got out of hand, which led to a huge fight. A few years later, Jan saw something romantic/cutesy on TV and asked why he never got Mom flowers. Dad said, roses are cursed and make your mom mad at me. Jan periodically brings up the roses are cursed BS every few years. I can't keep track of what upsets Jan. She also thinks dates that end in a 1 or 2 are cursed, blue trucks on the highway are cursed, types of food, and a bunch of other stuff nobody should be expected to remember. It was Mom's birthday this weekend and her boyfriend hosted brunch. I wasn't thinking and got Mom an arrangement that included roses. Mom loved it and put it in the kitchen. Jan showed up later with her family, all smiles, until about an hour later when she went into the kitchen, let out a blood-curdling wail, and started crying that roses were cursed and made Mommy divorce Daddy. She ranted that I cursed the family by bringing roses into the house on Mom's birthday. I snapped and said Mom and Dad got divorced because Dad was banging his way through our whole zip code in the 90s. Flowers aren't cursed, we're not cursed, that Dad made bad choices, and if she couldn't come to terms with that, then she needed to seek treatment because her behavior wasn't acceptable or normal. She looked at me like I had interrupted her Oscar speech. She and her husband left, and we tried to salvage the day. Mom's boyfriend thanked me, but Mom and our aunt say I'm the a-hole, and Jan is sensitive and delicate, and that I should have known better than to bring flowers. My husband doesn't care, he just won't go to family functions with Jan there now. Comment said, not the a-hole. She attacked you from a position of self-righteousness and irrationally then got shocked that you both defended yourself and pointed out that the issue lay with her. Your only other option was to put up with her nonsense. Here's the thing. She is an adult and well past the time when sensitivity can be an excuse for her behavior. If she's having trouble coping with an arrangement of flowers by this point, she definitely needs professional help. I am saying this very sincerely, because her reaction to the flowers and treatment of you over them is not normal or healthy. Another comment said, not the a-hole. Thank you for being the voice of reason in the family. While Jan created her own make-believe world to comfort herself, you guys shouldn't go along with it. At some point, Jan would benefit from a dose of reality. Trying to get her to therapy would be great. The last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my wife she can see her family by herself after they rescheduled their Christmas plans? My wife, 36 female, and I, 38 male, have been married for 10 years and have 3 kids, 8, 5, and 3. For the last 12 years or so, we've had a New Year's tradition of getting together with the same group of friends. Some years we rent an Airbnb, and some years we just get together at someone's house. We have only not gotten together 1 year, 2020. Even after having kids, we've found ways to keep this tradition going. It's something I really look forward to, as it's getting harder and harder to maintain friendships as we all get older, have kids, and become more entrenched in our own day-to-day lives. This year, we weren't planning on doing anything outlandish. We had planned to get together at one of our friends' houses about an hour from where we live and bring in the new year together. My parents would be coming to our house to watch our kids for the night. However, there is now a wrench in those plans. We were supposed to get together with my wife's family last Saturday for Christmas, but a couple of things derailed that. First, her brother, sister-in-law, and their 3 kids all got sick last week and told the family they wouldn't be making it. Then, the weather took a nasty turn and a lot of roads in our area were closed. My wife's mom and aunt, who would be hosting, decided by themselves that we would just reschedule for this coming weekend, New Year's Eve. There was no discussion, just a group chat sent out telling people that we would be getting together New Year's Eve instead of Christmas Eve. As soon as we got the text, my wife just assumed that we would be going to see her family instead of our friends. She told me that I can call my parents and tell them not to come since we won't need them to watch the kids. I told her I do not want to cancel on our friends since we've had those plans for months and I'm looking forward to it. She told me I shouldn't be prioritizing seeing friends over seeing her family and that missing New Year's for 1 year isn't going to be a big deal. I told her that she knows how much this tradition means to me because these are lifelong friends for me and this is one of the few times, if not the only time a year, that I get to see them all in one place. I told her that if she's going to insist on going to see her family instead of her friends, then she can just go alone. That made her mad because she had assumed that we would just tell our friends that we can't make it because of our change in Christmas plans. Due to her aunt's house being a 90-minute drive from our house in the opposite direction of our friends, doing both is not a realistic option. My wife's family is getting together at 5 p.m., so even getting to our friend's house by 10 p.m. would be difficult and would require us to probably be the first to leave her family gathering. She is still trying to convince me to cancel on our friends, but I refuse to do that. I want to see my friends, and it's not my fault that her family rescheduled without asking if anyone had other plans. Comment said, not the a-hole. I am amazed at how many people discount friend traditions because they aren't related by bloodline. These people whom we gather with by choice are family as well. For your wife to completely discount your feelings on this without discussion is wholly unfair. For her family to reschedule Christmas without any discussion is also unfair. You are not the a-hole for wanting to adhere to your original plan. But marriage is also compromised. If your wife refuses any discussion and that it's her family or bust, then I recommend you go to the friend event without her. Another comment said, not the a-hole. Plans change, people get sick, and if you were near that winter storm everyone keeps talking about, I can see why the celebrations were postponed. But at this time of year, people have many things going on, and to assume that everyone would be available or willing to change their plans for New Year's Eve is quite entitled on the part of your mother-in-law/aunt. Sure, reschedule, but don't be surprised if people can't make it. Plus, it sounds like you're not even objecting to your wife attending her family event without you. This is a simple case of having 2 conflicting events and 2 adults having a difference in priorities. Obviously, your New Year's tradition with your friends doesn't mean as much to your wife as her family events, and that's fine. She can attend her event whilst you attend yours, and if she wants, she can cancel the babysitting and take the kids with her. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.